In Peru, workers launched a 72-hour national strike against Dina Boluarte's government due to high levels of criminality that affect the country's social stability. The United Nations temporarily suspended the delivery of humanitarian aid in Haiti due to the deteriorating security situation in the country. And in Palestine, the Israeli regime killed at least 47 Palestinians and injured more than 180 in its latest attacks on Gaza. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from TeleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Peru, workers launched a 72-hour national strike against Dina Boluarte's government due to high levels of criminality that affect the country's social stability. Starting this Wednesday, workers of the transportation sector, merchants and union groups joined the strike to demand measures against crime, which affects entrepreneurs of all sectors. Those mobilized reject the crime law promoted by Boluarte's administration, which favors delinquency and the urban terrorism law. In the last year, 17,000 complaints of extortion and 2,000 cases of homicide were registered at national level without receiving any attention from the authorities. An Argentinian court upheld Wednesday a 6-year prison sentence and a lifetime ban from holding public office against former President Cristina Fernández. Fernández was convicted and sentenced in 2022 by a 3-judge panel for an alleged fraud scheme that embezzled millions of dollars through public works projects during her presidency. The former head of state appealed the 2022 decision, but now higher tribunal ratified the original ruling. The verdict was handed down by the judge, Gustavo Hornos, who has been questioned for his links with former President Mauricio Macri. Fernández has 10 days to appeal the decision before the Supreme Court. In El Salvador, family members demand proof of life of prisoners under the emergency regime established on March 22, 2022, under the government of Nayib Bukele. Through the Proof of Life campaign, hundreds of Salvadoran families are demanding authorities to inform about the status of many people detained without clear evidence or valid charges. The lack of access to prisoners and prohibition of visits have contributed to the uncertainty, since they do not know where their family members are or even if they're alive. According to reports from different human rights organizations, approximately 30,000 of the 83,000 detainees are innocent. The United Nations temporarily suspended the delivery of humanitarian aid in Haiti due to the deteriorating security situation in the country. Humanitarian flights had to be suspended after the Haitian government decreed the closure of the Toussaint Louverture airport. The decision came after criminal armed groups opened fire at an aircraft. The plane, with 48 people on board, had to be rerouted to the Dominican city of Santiago, and subsequently JetBlue reported another attack against one of its aircraft. As a result, the United Nations had to delay the movement of 20 truckloads of critical medicine and supplies, and is now contemplating moving its air operations to an airport in the north of the country. A new wave of violence generated by armed criminal groups spread through Haiti on Monday amid great political instability that culminated in the replacement of Prime Minister Gary Conille. See the details in the following report by our colleague Charlotte Dafoe.
Empty streets, silent schools, closed stores. Port-au-Prince residents woke up on Monday with the warning to stay at home, as gunfire began to reverberate in several neighborhoods of the city. In the afternoon, a Spirit Airlines commercial flight was hit by gunfire and had to divert its route, which led to the suspension of air traffic over the capital. This explosion of violence occurred on the day of the nomination of the new Prime Minister, Alex Didier Filzame. In his first speech, Filzame stressed the urgency of resolving the problems of insecurity and freedom of movement in the country.
Le premier chantier incontournable et qui conditionne la réussite de la transition est le...
The first essential task that will determine the success of the transition is to reestablish the security of people, property and infrastructure, food security, and freedom of movement throughout the country.
The United Nations, for their part, called on the country's political forces to overcome their differences and move towards the restoration of order. They also called on member states to collaborate with security operations on the island.
First remains a critical to that end. The Secretary General appeals to all member states to sustain and increase their security support for Haiti, including through multinational security support mission, ensuring that it receives the financial support it needs to successfully implement its mandate and expand deployment and operations. Latest political developments, the Secretary General urges all Haitian stakeholders to work constructively together to advance the political transition as agreed upon on March 11th in Jamaica. A third and a half of armed gang members are children under the age of 18.
According to the UN, armed gangs now control up to 85% of the capital, imposing a climate of terror on the population and making the country's democratic transition impossible.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump arrived in Washington, D.C. to meet outgoing President Joe Biden in the White House's Oval Office. Trump's meeting with Biden comes as he moves swiftly to name his top team, including Tesla and ex-owner Elon Musk, as head of a new group aimed at cutting government expenditure. Biden invited his sworn rival to meet in the Oval Office, despite the fact that Trump, who has consistently refused to admit his 2020 election lose, never afforded Biden the same courtesy. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said Biden would go over top foreign policy issues when he meets Trump, including U.S. support for Ukraine, which Trump has criticized. The outgoing president pledged to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition of power. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, the Israeli regime killed at least 47 Palestinians and injured more than 180 in its latest attack on Gaza. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported 43,712 people killed since the beginning of the Israeli genocide, with approximately 103,000 wounded. Authorities pointed out that Israeli forces committed 7 massacres against several families in residential areas, causing hundreds of wounded. In a report to the United Nations, Palestine denounced that at least 70% of civilians killed by the Israeli attack are women and children. Authorities also affirmed that the health crisis is worsening with the lack of medical supplies. In Lebanon, authorities registered a new Israeli airstrike in Beirut. Occupation forces shot down a building and attacked civilian targets in the capital's Dahij district. Before attacking, Israeli troops issued evacuation orders for the neighborhoods of Goiberi and Haret Reik, south of Beirut, for allegedly being Hezbollah resistance movement locations. The Lebanese authorities have not reported or commented on any casualties. Only images of the impact of the attack have been broadcast in local media, while Israel stated that in this second phase of its ground operation, it will destroy Hezbollah's rocket launching capability. In Pakistan, a bus veered off the road on Tuesday and it fell into the Indus River at TeleSUR bridge, bringing about 14 deaths and 13 missing in Punjab province. In the Gilgit-Baltistan region, authorities reported that the driver lost control of the bus due to reaching high speed. He was taking a bride, a groom, and their guests to celebrate a wedding at the Shagwal city in Punjab province. In addition, reports confirmed 14 deaths, including that of the bride, who died at a nearby hospital from her serious injuries. Currently, rescue teams are still looking for 13 missing persons. However, experts described as unlikely the chance of any survivors grounded in freezing weather conditions. In Mozambique, the opposition leader and presidential candidate Venancio Mondlane called for new protests against the alleged fraud committed in the elections of last October 9th. In this sense, he urged his followers to demonstrate in ports, border posts, and big cities starting this Wednesday. Since October 21st, the presidential aspirant has called for general strike days and mobilizations against the alleged irregularities in the elections. Although the election day was calm, the observation mission of the European Union found irregularities in the counting of votes. Mondlane assures that the objective is not to carry out a coup d'etat, but to put pressure on the institutions of justice so that the electoral truth is restored. Somaliland, the self-proclaimed independent region of Somalia, kicked off presidential elections on Wednesday amid regional tensions. More than 1 million people will vote in this election process. 3 candidates are running for the presidency, including the country's current president, Musa Bihi Abdi, who has been in power since 2017 and whose mandate was extended for 2 years in 2022 due to the alleged technical and financial obstacles. The election took place during a diplomatic crisis with Somalia following the agreement signed last January, where the Somaliland government granted Ethiopia access to the Red Sea. The World Food Programme (WFP), along with the Food and Agriculture Organization and the United Nations Children's Fund, warned that 33 million Nigerians could face food insecurity by 2025. The United Nations entities reported that Nigeria has been hit by record inflation due to climate crisis and armed conflicts, so that another 8 million people would need assistance by 2025, compared to the current 25 million people in need. Likewise, WFP spokesperson for Nigeria, Shilael, assured that 5.4 million children and 800,000 pregnant and breastfeeding women may suffer from acute malnutrition or wasting. The authority added that the country will face a huge hunger crisis in the second half of 2025, particularly in the northeastern states of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, home to some 5 million people who are facing acute food insecurity. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away.
Will leave their homeland to reach new horizons.
Welcome back to From the South. In Italy, a report finds that more to 1.2 million children live in poverty and social exclusion. According to a report prepared by the Catholic Church pastoral agency Caritas, in the last 10 years, the percentage of Italian families suffering from poverty and social exclusion has increased. In 2014, it went from 6.9% to 9.7%. While in 2023, the figure reached 97.2%, only in the northern, industrialized and wealthy areas of this country. The document proposes the establishment of a universal and continuous support system to avoid the exclusion of so many people living in absolute poverty in Italy. In Portugal, Web Summit 2024 has been underway since Monday, November 11th until Thursday, November 14th in Parque das Nações. The Lisbon project is a meeting for immigrants, entrepreneurs, and sets a record of 71,528 participants from 153 countries. It is worth noticing that women have founded over 44% of the startups. Furthermore, this is a flagship event which has been taking place every November in the Portugal capital for over 12 years. In 2024, Web Summit will host the following encounters: Web Summit Rio in South America, Web Summit Qatar in Middle East, Collision and Web Summit Vancouver in North America, and Rise in Asia.
I'm the founder of the startup Trovador. We use robots to reforest hard-to-reach areas, and this is my first time at Web Summit. And so far, it's been a good experience. We've spoken to a lot of people who want to form partnerships with us. Whether they're investors or customers who want to put our machines in the field, it's all been very productive.
In Pakistan, air pollution has reportedly exceeded more than 80 times in the level classified as acceptable by the World Health Organization. Precisely, the city of Lahore in the country's Punjab province remained enveloped in a thick smog resulting from low-quality diesel fumes and smoke from agricultural fires. In response, the local Environmental Protection Agency announced the imposition of new restrictions in 4 areas of the city, banning the use of tricycles equipped with polluting engines. As part of the measures, several employees of the public and private administration will work from home, and construction jobs have been halted. In Indonesia, the Levotovi Laki-Laki volcano swept more plumes of hot ash into the air Wednesday following a major eruption that killed at least 9 people on November 4th. During the day, smoke was seen rising from the crater and villages were completely covered with ash, forcing residents to move to temporary shelters. Several international airlines suspended flights to and from the island of Bali, keeping thousands of passengers stranded at the airport. The volcano, of more than 1,500 meters approximately, is located on the remote island of Flores in the province of East Nusa Tenggara. On Wednesday, India's capital, New Delhi, dawned covered by a grayish blanket of environmental pollution that partially prevented visibility, thus becoming the most polluted city in the world. According to measurements by the Swiss platform IQ Air, the level of air quality in the Indian capital is hazardous to health. A combination of factors such as the burning of agricultural waste, industrial emissions, and adverse weather conditions generate a dense layer of smog that envelops the city. Before New Delhi, the Pakistani city of Lahore had topped the ranking of the world's most polluted cities in the recent weeks. In Chile, authorities declared a red alert this November 12th due to several simultaneous outbreaks of forest fires in 51 communes, mainly in the regions of Valparaíso, Metropolitana, O'Higgins, and Maule. The declaration of red alert allows the identification of areas that could have a higher risk of combustion and spread of forest fires. The National Forestry Corporation indicated that so far the fires have consumed 160 hectares in the areas of Los Molles, Quilpué, and Valparaíso. In view of the spread of the forest fires, the evacuation of residents in communes such as Los Molles, Quilpué, and Villa Alemana is being evaluated. Cuban authorities reported 10 people injured following the strong earthquakes that hit the eastern region last Sunday. Cuba's National Defense Council, led by the country's President Miguel Díaz-Canel, held on Tuesday a news session to follow up on the progress made in the recovery after the seismic event. During the meeting, a detailed review was made with the authorities of Santiago de Cuba, Granma, Artemisa, Mayabeque, and Havana on the actions taken in response to the damages caused by the tremors and their aftershocks. In Granma, 10 people were reported injured and a total of 3,518 infrastructure damaged, of which 54 were total collapses. Spanish authorities issued a red alert in Malaga, Andalusia, and the province of Tarragona ahead of expected torrential rains related to a new cold drop event. Authorities in Catalonia decreed restrictions to mobility and the suspension of schools and sport activities in different regions of the affected provinces. According to the Spanish Weather Agency, the alert will be maintained in Malaga until midnight Thursday. The Valencian government also restricted the main urban bus service and the high-speed train that connects with Madrid. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.